cancer, like he said yesterday. And sister, so if he knows someone has cancer or finds out about it, he will send them a couple of shirts so when they're doing their chemo or whatever, they can wear the shirt while they're doing the chemo. And so he said, I went through chemo and a friend of me sent these shirts. And he said, and aren't they great? He said, yeah, I know, I made them. And he's like, what? And he pulled up the website. He said, yeah, that's me on the website. He had them made here at Desert Arc. He hired Desert Arc to take care of everything. Yeah. I will hand up my own handbag. So, yeah. Pretty true to form. And they stay pretty well because they're high quality. They don't shrink up a lot. I mean, if you put them in... No, they were made here in America sizes. I'm an XL and it fits XL, and when I feel thin, I wear a large, but normally it's an XL. Yeah, I think he's going to bring us some inventory in. We have some in the bookstore, but next week I'll have him bring some more in. So... Yeah, the Trinity. Yep. No. No, they don't. All right. It's almost 9 o'clock. So first of all, I want to say hi to my live streamers. If you're on, we welcome you. We hope you had a good week and you're joining us. To my live streamers, we're going to have a lot of time talking amongst ourselves. So I'm going to do the very best I can running microphones. And we're going to have some small groups today. So I would just ask you that when you're asked to go into a small group, you simply just go through your notes, and if you have a highlighter, highlight some of the themes that came up for you, as if you were sharing them with someone, that you realize these things have happened in your world the past week. So good morning, everyone. How are we doing? Are we doing well? Let me turn this music off, and let's put everything on the side, or so your lap is clear, if you would, please. All right, let's take a deep breath in and exhale out. Okay, so you're here. You made it on time. Everything is good. And now you just need to breathe for a moment. Listen to the sound of your own breath. Allow your heart rate to go down. Relax, get settled. In this experience today, I just know that we are all open, receptive to a new idea, to an awakening, to something that's going to bring within us a sense of being alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastic about our life. I know that right here in this very room, the possibility exists that your life can move and change in a direction for good that you've never thought of before. All that's necessary is that you keep an open mind, an open heart, and say yes to the challenges. Lean into, with faith, these challenges. And so I know that something wonderful is happening here today and that each and every one of you are going to be a part of that. For that, I'm so very grateful, and we let this beautiful day unfold, and it does so with grace and ease, as together we say, and so it is. Amen. Okay, grab a partner. We're going to grab a partner real quick. Someone you preferably don't know. I don't want someone you haven't met yet. Yolanda is behind these. Yolanda needs a partner. If this is your first week, raise your hand if it's your first week. If this is your first week, wait. I want you in on a trio. Lindy, I need you to be in with 3 people because I want you to listen to them because you weren't able to do the homework. So the first week people, you're just going to be observing and listening a lot, okay? So does everybody have a partner? Good. Who needs a partner? Kay needs a partner. Oh, you got one? Everybody partnered up? Jeff, you got a partner? So say hello to your new partner. Introduce yourself. All right. So here is your assignment. It's up on the board here. With a partner, share any insights that may have come up as a result of last week's class. Pay special attention to the experience of reading the journal entries daily and writing your thoughts. You don't have to read the contents of your journal unless you want. Just share about the experience of doing your homework. So we're actually going to go through each item you wrote about separately today. So no need to share the contents. That's going to come up later. And if you were unable to complete your homework, what we want you to do is just listen. Consider asking your sharing partners for support in making that commitment. How come you weren't able to do that? So what excuse did you give yourself for not doing that? I'll say that way. So what excuse do you have for not having your homework done? That's what I would say to my daughter, who today is gainfully employed. Yes, okay. So go ahead. I'll give you. I'm going to give you like 3 or 4. I'll probably have 4 minutes to do this. You got a couple minutes. Just banter back and forth. Just what insights, if anything, did you get by doing this work? All right. Okay, you got about another minute to wrap up, so hopefully everybody got a chance to share. You didn't get a chance to share yet? Okay, good. All right, thank your partner and head back to your seats, please. All right. Thank your partners and head back to your seats. Okay, we're going to do an exercise now, and it just requires you to put everything off your lap for just a few moments again. Let's close our eyes for a moment. And I just want you to listen to what is being said. Don't try to dissect it. Just listen to the words, okay? Living an abundant life is not really about having more money. It is about having more freedom to express what God created you to be. Money can sometimes grant you greater freedom, but not always. We were not designed by our Creator to live limited lives. We were not made to suffer every day through meaningless jobs just for some false sense of security. We were designed for full expression. We were made to be in love, to be healthy, to be rich, and to be in relationship with God. God made each one of us with a specific talent or gift that no other person can express in quite the same way that we can. We are here to find out what that gift is and to give it to the world. In your prayer work, don't ask God for more money. Instead, pray for full expression. Know that God's desire for your life is the fullest expression of your soul. You have a right to live freely and to express who you are without restrictions or limitations. You have a right to your good, and nothing in the universe is trying to withhold it from you. What have you always wanted to be? What would bring you the greatest joy? Take a deep breath in and exhale out. So this was oh, by the way, for those of you who felt a great deal of frustration with your packet, did anyone else feel frustration with your packet? I should have gone through design, because if you would just go to 26, 42, they're in exact order that you need them. So if you separated them, we'll try to get you another packet, because otherwise the rest of the week, or the rest of the 4 weeks will be a real challenge. You'll be trying to find paper. So there was no rhyme, no reason as to, you couldn't separate them, but they are in an order for you to follow there. I know it was kind of confusing. All right, so full expression. Give me some comments on full expression. What does it mean to you to have full expression? Anybody? Freedom. To do what? Okay, any way you wish that's good and kind. And in what ways, though? Take me further down that road. You put me on the freeway, now take me down the freeway a little bit. What does that mean?
Well, when I come into contact with people, I always want to put out what I want to receive.
Okay, so you're talking about putting out what you want to receive. What about in material wealth? Full expression. Anybody? Material wealth? Want to take a shot at it? Yes. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give you these. Please help me by kind of like hanging on to them, and we'll just kind of pass them around as they go. All right?
As I went through these, I thought, okay, in every moment of my life when I see people, do something. So, had a massage in a place that looked like it was really struggling, and went back with a piece of ceramics I had made that beautifully held, and then bought 4 packages of individually wrapped candies, and found palm trees for $10 at Home Depot, took 3 of them back, and just that feeling of, what can I do there? Okay, homeless shelter, people, what can I have in my car? What can I get? Think what might be embarrassing and do it.
Right. Think might what be what?
Embarrassing.
Exactly. One of the reasons we don't live to our fullest expression, there's a difference between what we call full expression and metered expression. Full expression is I'm living right out. I'm paint it red all the way out, right? Some people live like that all the time, but there are other areas of their life where they're very metered. In other words, we monitor ourselves. We may feel embarrassed to say something or embarrassed to do something, so we don't participate because we may feel embarrassed. But if you can get over that hump, like Maggie was saying, if you can get over that hump and really extend yourself, you will find yourself expanding. Because that embarrassment is nothing more than what you're feeling is a lack of self-worth or a lack of confidence that you're not going to be able to pull this off. Well, pulling off a couple palm trees and going to a place that really needs business, that's easy to do, right? But to give them that gift, I bet they felt sort of awkward, because I bet you anything they're not used to getting, right? They're probably not used to people going, here, take this, let me help you. Here, put this is really pretty. Can you imagine how that probably changed their consciousness in that moment? So we think about that. So that's good, Maggie. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else want to share something that's on their mind? Jody, when it comes to this.
Yes, I was up at the Wells Fargo, and there was a girl that didn't understand English at all, and she couldn't get her money out for her rent, and I was standing behind her, and I asked her, I said, can I help you? And she literally gave me her PIN number and her card in order to give her, get her rent out. And I gave it back to her and her card, and she happily went on and walked away and was very grateful that she was able to pay her rent.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a lot of frustration in people. We see frustration in individuals, but we're afraid to approach them for fear what they might think or that it's none of our business. But when you innocently walk up and go, you know what, I see you're struggling, can I help you with something? I mean, out here in the desert, for me, there are infinite opportunities to do that. Because every time I turn around, there is someone having trouble parking or getting out of a parking spot or doing an ATM, running an ATM or doing certain things. So there's a lot of opportunities for us just to, these are really simple things to express. So let's talk about full expression versus metered. What does that mean? Full expression, where are you metered? Where do you kind of step back and go, I could be better than that. I could be better in this, but I'm hesitant to do so.
Well,
Put it up to your mouth for me, hon.
definitely, these past few months, I've really uncovered my fear around not having enough money by having my daughter lose her job and requiring about $1,000 a month to pay rent and so on. And so that's brought up that fear of I'm not going to be able to pay my bills and get through the month, makes me resentful and angry.
Sure.
And so I take it out on her.
Right?
And so rather than helping to heal a broken relationship, I make it worse,
Still going at it.
still going at it.
And it's fear-based.
And it's all fear-based, and I know that.
So,
And I'm going to be really tested because my daughter is driving down from Richmond today to move in with me because
ooh,
she's
let's bring it in-house.
she's lost, she's lost her she lost
Let's
her
take our
boyfriend.
problems and bring it in-house. That's good.
She lost her boyfriend. She lost her job.
Well, she's okay.
She
Then you
can't
know what?
afford her medication.
So here you go.
So she's coming
we'll talk about
tonight.
this offline because there's some work you're going to have to do. So make an appointment with me offline. But all I can say is this: when something like that is happening, that is your golden opportunity for you to practice principle.
Yes.
That's not a time for you to forget it.
No.
It's a time, or throw it out.
To
You're
practice.
like, it is really a time to throw whatever you can at this in principle. And it's part of an agreement that when we're living in the house, this is how this has to work, right? This is how we're going to work this. So we'll talk about more of that later.
Yes.
Anybody else? Ronald, you were going to say something, or you just have the microphone? Oh, Mark, there you go.
Oh, thank you. My name is Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Hi, Mark.
I have been in religious science for 67 years. I was Ernest Holmes' soloist for 20 years, assistant choir director for Ernest. I've never met a finer teacher than Joe.
Oh, thank you.
I've learned so much. I have been so grateful. All my life, I've had wonderful jobs. I have never had a money problem. I lost my partner. And I'm working on that.
Just a couple months ago.
I received a death benefit from Social Security for $255. And then I realized that he was getting a newspaper every month from an Indian organization. His mother was American Indian. So I called them to cancel the paper. They sent me a $2,000 death benefit. I thought, my God, how great. I have all the money I need to live on the rest of my life. I'm 93 years old, and I am so blessed.
There you go. That's what you call full expression right there. That's what you call full expression. So where in your life are you metered? Where in your life do you step back a little bit and are hesitant to jump in? Just yell it out. Communications. Sometimes you tend not to be honest in some of them because you can't be in.
Not dishonest.
Right, just not all the way.
I'm just saying, I have difficulty expressing what I feel.
Okay?
And when I do, it's discounted. So I have to be real careful of how I say things.
So let me tell you this. When it comes to feeling discounted in your communications, no one can discount you without you giving them the discount.
Exactly.
Just remember that. So that's a self-worth issue that we're going to work on over the next few weeks. Because no one can discount you unless you allow them to do that. Okay? Anybody else? I saw hands. Yes.
Well, mine's more metered. I can usually say things that I want to say, my feelings. But when it comes to metered, I mean, just saying something, I'm kind of hesitant to say because I'm afraid I won't say it the right way. I mean, like something like this. I mean, I can't. I seem to really hesitate when I read stuff, and then when I'm trying to give it back, I can't seem to do it.
Well, honey, you're doing it right now. Yeah, you did it right now. You grabbed the microphone and you said, this is what it is. So you have to look, the baby step first is grabbing the microphone. No, I'm just saying, give yourself credit where credit's due. Sometimes the first step is just starting the process. Part about full expression versus metered is that you have to go, you know what? I have to break down any barriers that I have to picking up a microphone or standing or speaking my truth. Or what I would say is stand and authorize your experience. If you want full expression, you have to be able to stand and authorize your experience. Well, not stand up, but I'm just saying feel like you're spiritually standing up so that you feel confident about you are destined to have what, remember in my reading, we are destined to have a life full of love and health and prosperity and balance and order and wisdom and joy. That's our divine birthright. That is into your spiritual genetics. Now, whether or not we take those genetics and have them work to our advantage, that's up to us. That's choice. Velma was going to say.
Mine is about being metered.
Uh-huh.
And I realized this week that I have a little syndrome in me that says I'm just not ready yet. If I just take one more class, if I just have one more aha moment,
Yeah.
if I just get one more inspiration, if I have the right thinking. And then I read Ernest Holmes this week, and he said, you can only learn so much, and then you have to learn by doing.
Yeah.
And you just have to let go. And so I realized it's a big trust walk.
Yeah.
You just have to let it go and move forward, no matter how ready or unready you think you are.
Absolutely. No, people are hesitant to step forward because they don't feel like they know enough. Yeah. They don't feel like they can convey it enough. I mean, look, when I became a minister, my life's goal was not to be a minister. That was not what I set out to do in my life. I was a stewardess. I was happy. I was a flight attendant. And I was happy doing that, and I was happy in my other job that I put my notice for retirement in this week. So, yes, thank you. March 26th is the day. March 26th, I'll be retired from that job after 20 years. But I was never really thinking that I could get up and take the things that we've learned and articulate them because, who am I? I'm not Ernest Holmes. I'm not Deepak Chopra. I'm not Wayne Dyer. I'm not, Oprah. I'm just Joe. And so as soon as I went through this experience where my inhibitions were taken away from me, let's just say that, and I had a spiritual experience where suddenly it was like, what is it going to take? And this was the question. What is it going to take for you to step into your greatness? Someone asked me that question. And it stunned me for quite some time. Because what I realized is that, like Velma was saying, sometimes you don't feel like you have the confidence to say something. But what was keeping me is that I have all this stuff in my head, but I'm afraid because I'm just Joe and I'm just an average guy that it's not going to make sense. It's not going to it's not going to be said the way I want it to be said or understood the way I want it to be understood. So I was always reserved about doing that. And then suddenly, right after that moment, that's when I used to write 22 pages of notes for my talk. Every Sunday talk, I'd have 22 pages of notes up on my thing, and I would come back, and I would read them, and I would read them, and I'd read them, and I was boring. Until finally somebody said, what is it going to take for you to step into your greatness? And I'm like, get rid of my notes. Just talk. Just talk, because either you know it or you don't, and whatever you know, Spirit's going to speak through you, and it's going to come through you. So that leads me to my point, what Velma was talking about. So you led me right there, Velma. One of the parts about full expression All right? One of the parts about full expression is just allowing yourself to surrender to the greater and not be afraid of what other people are going to think and other people's opinions or how they're going to talk down to you or whether you're ready or not. Trust me, you're never going to be more ready than you are today. You're never going to be one day younger than you are today. You're not going to be one day younger than you are today. Mark's 93. Tell me about it, Mark, right? You're not going to be one day younger than you are today.
I know you're taking over Bette Midler's part in Hello, Dolly.
No, I'm not doing Hello, Dolly. Well, maybe that could be fun. All right. I just want the headdress, just for the one. I want the one song. Okay, that's all I want. Anyway, where am I? Stop doing that. See? Metered expression. I get easily distracted. So now is the time for you to understand that full expression means full expression. And that if you want to live a prosperous life and a life where you are involved in the dance, okay, where you're a dance partner, you're not sitting off on the sidelines as like the wallflower at the dance, you're actually out there in the dance, it's going to require for you to accept that you have a spiritual genetic basis of fullness, of all that is good. It's what you were, number 2, the question, how would you complete this phrase? I was created to be. How many people were created to be a mess? How many people were created that way? It's like God said, you shall have a mess and you shall have it abundantly, pressed down and flowing over the rest of your life. Right? Right? How many people were destined to be a mess? No. What were you created to be? Perfect, whole, and complete. What does that mean, though? We say that. What does that mean? Very good, Lenny. That's very book smart. But what does it mean? What does it mean, perfect, whole, and complete? Velma, hang on. Do you want to answer that? Go for it. What does it mean to you?
To me, it means that your heart and your head match,
Okay, and your actions.
and my actions.
That's where you heart and head can match. But
What do I do with it?
there you go. Did I just answer that, Velma? Do you need that now?
No, I don't need that, but it means identifying with your source.
Identifying with your source, with God. Yeah, who am I created to be? But now, Lindy, you got it right. Heart, head, but then what does it take? What you fear, action. See, Maggie took heart, head, and took action. She did something about it. I'm sure all of you did. But Maggie shared her story of doing something about it. She took the heart, the head, she took some action. When you've been invited to take action by the universe, you just don't know that you've had an eternal invitation. It's been an ongoing invitation for you to get into the dance. The dance is one of giving and receiving. What does it say you have to do first in order to receive? Give. If you want full expression, what do you have to give? You have to give your fullest self out, and you will receive that which you need in return. Pressed down and flowing over. Does that make sense? What else? How else were you created to be? An expression. Velma, you said. What did you say? Right. We were created to unify and magnify the source within us. How does that sound? Unify and magnify the source that created us. Does that make sense? Because it's not enough just to identify with it, but I have to be able to identify it, I have to be able to expand it, unify with it, and then expand it out of who I am into my workplace or into my family or into these different places. Yes?
I have trouble expressing myself, and especially now that I'm older. I'm 80,
Excuse.
87,
Nope.
and my hearing is going, and
Yep.
my memory is not as great. And my idea of prosperity is getting organized and being able to find things when I need it, and getting rid of clutter and free myself up to be more whole and loving. And I always want to surround myself with happy, loving, productive, creative people like you all are. And I don't know what my gift is. I feel like, I don't know whether I have a lot of friends and they all seem to like me, and I don't know what my gift is.
Okay, you just answered question number 3. You didn't know that, but you did. How would you be in a world of if all the concepts that inhibit your self-expression were removed overnight. You just told me about all the things that are keeping you from being fully self-expressed. You're older, my hearing, and I forget things. Honey, that's me. I have to tell you, I had a moment. I haven't even shared that with my husband yet. I went with a friend to go see a show, Hamilton, the show Hamilton in LA, right? Sat through the whole half, didn't understand a word. I couldn't hear it. I had to go get one of those assisted hearing devices in the intermission, and I sat there with that assisted hearing device going, oh, crap. Look at me. Look at me. You're old. You're old, but you can hear what's being said. It was a very liberating, but yet had a double-edged sword to it. I'm like, so here I am going, oh, God, I can hear. Oh, look at you, Joe. You're wearing the headsets. Oh, my God, you're getting old. Honey, you're not any different than anybody else. So that excuse has to be pulled off the table. You just do the best you can. The problem is when you don't hear something or you don't understand it or you're caught in your clutter, you start talking down about yourself. As soon as you start talking down about yourself, what's going to happen? You're just going to go further down. That's not going to lift you up. So when we're in that space, right, when we're in that space that I can identify with, one has to realize that self-talk, if you were to remove all that, what would you feel? And you told me, you'd feel prosperous if you felt organized. If you felt, okay, so get on it, honey. But don't worry about the other stuff. If you forget what you're organizing, all right, go back. It's okay. It's okay. Don't, see, we metaphysically flog ourselves. Metaphysicians are the worst. We teach this stuff, and then when the chips are down, we go like this. Oh my God, what am I doing to myself spiritually? Oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm doing terrible things to my body. I'm doing terrible. Oh my God. And so we start telling ourselves all the terrible stuff that we're doing. It makes no sense. We start spiritually beating ourselves up. So what? I can't hear that. Excuse me, I didn't hear you. But now it's incumbent upon me, which I delay, right? So now here's action. Here's action. I know in order to be self-expressed, I need to go get a hearing test. Have I scheduled that yet? No. Why? Because the thought of that is just not appealing to me. So I'm not done with it yet. I'm not ready yet. So I will suffer. I will take away my happiness because of my vanity. Right? Because of my ego. So I'm going to not move forward because what's going to happen if I actually have to do that now? What am I going to feel like? So I'm delaying. I'm being honest. I'm putting myself out there in front of you. I'm delaying as long as I can. I don't know why, but because probably that has a lot to do with it. So I just have to so in order for me to step into my greatness, I'm going to have to go, get over yourself, Joe. That's what technology has done. Technology has given you the ability so that you don't have to struggle to listen, to hear something. So take it. Yes?
I don't know why I find this important, but I had the very similar event that Joe was going through. You miss so much if you can't hear. So I came down into the desert because I let go of a big problem. I came down to the desert and came to this church, but I couldn't hear anything. So I went to Costco and I got 2 hearing aids. I'm wearing 2 hearing aids. So I can hear back here and I can hear Joe because I couldn't hear you as close as I seem to have gotten seat-wise.
Right.
And I got new glasses. I write notes to myself. I write everything down. So move your feet. Pray and move your feet.
Yep, get over it. Here we go, Rick. You were going to say something. Did you have your hand up?
I didn't have
No. Okay, Lisa.
Well, to build on
I thought
that,
you had your hand up.
to build on that, actually,
Oh, you were just waving? Okay, yeah. Wait, flying. Okay, I like that. We're just flying a little bit.
to build on hers, Costco does have free hearing.
Yeah,
test,
yeah, I
by
know.
the way.
I know where I can get one. That's not. I know
Well,
the
I went for
availability.
one.
It's not has nothing to do with availability.
I went for one because my husband and children says I don't listen. Well,
Right.
I find out that my listening is perfect. It's because I'm not listening to them.
Well, that's a good one. Okay, one last one, and then I got to move on.
Just one more word here. To make everybody feel great, I did this. I had about 50 pair of shoes and tons of clothing, which I gave to Well in the Desert, and I went to see them. They were all wearing my friend's clothing, and it was the most wonderful feeling in the world. Well in the Desert, they need it.
Yeah. So another thing to do is to give to others any way you can. All right. So, how would it be in the world if all the concepts that inhibit your self-expression were removed overnight? Let's just say I had a magic pill, and on your way out I gave you a magic pill, and I said, before bed tonight, I want you to take this pill before you go to sleep, and tomorrow everything that's been inhibiting you is going to be gone. Don't say you're going to dance naked at Costco. What would you do? What would life be like if you did that? What if you gave that up? Who would you be if you didn't have your rules? Who would you be if you didn't have your restrictions? What would you do if you didn't have that feeling like I'm old or I'm this or I'm that? What would you do if you didn't have those inhibitions? What would you do if you struck down the language in your head that said, this stuff is keeping me from being myself? Who would you be? What would you do? Think about that for a minute. What would that be like?
You wouldn't be afraid to try anything.
You'd be fearless. You'd be fearless, and you would be gutsy, and you would go out on limbs, and you would help other people, and you wouldn't be afraid. If you took all those inhibitions down, right? Then what? Last question. What is the group mind fear might happen if everyone expressed themselves fully? What if everybody got on this page? Everybody. Did you say whoa, Yolanda? Oh. What if everybody, the group mind, what if the group mind, in other words, what if the consciousness of the people, we start releasing all that superficial stuff. All of our walls, all of our veils, all of that stuff. What would that be like? Limitless and freeing. And people would, do you think there'd be more harmony? Do you think there'd be plenty of food and water for everyone? Do you think people would feel like they're safe? Do you think we could provide shelter for people and clothing for everyone? Do you think that the abundance in the universe would be automatically shared with other people because there was no fear that someone was going to come and take something from you, but rather in the giving nature, you'd be apt to do that? Well, so I would ask you, as a faith community, why can't we be like that? Why can't we? Yolanda, I'm going to get a mic. I'm running. Well, not running. I'm actually just walking. Go ahead. There you go.
There's so much, going on right now, and it's very exciting because it's triggering a lot of, good stuff. I am really fearless. I travel alone. I went to Brazil. I came back alone. I didn't speak the language, and I almost didn't get on the plane because the guy didn't understand where I wanted to get off and get on what plane. When I meet people, I always give them something. I tend to give them some inspiration. The other day, there was a woman, I use the Access Services, which is for people with disabilities who can't drive. And there was a woman sitting across from me, and we greeted each other and said hello. She sounded like she was 100 years old. She was just real low energy, and we're talking, and I asked her about herself, and, I said, are you diabetic? She says, yes. And so I started coaching her about diet and stuff like that. And she said, you're right. I've been thinking about this. And I said, well, do you want to eat a jelly donut or do you want to be blind? She said, you're absolutely right. She said, you're too much. I said, yeah, isn't that better than big not enough? And when you talked about, speaking out, I used to give a lot of talks. I'm giving my first talk in a couple of years at the College of the Desert next Friday at 5 o'clock for Hispanic Heritage Month. And I've really been struggling over what I want to say to these students. And I decided I'm not going to write a talk. I'm just going to stand up there and talk about, the Book of Virtues I did, and talk about, spiritual principles, and talk about all the good things that, we learned in this teaching, and just let it flow like I used to when I used to speak years ago, before I was worried about how am I going to give a talk when I can't see, what do I say, because I don't structure anything. And it's just I'm an unexpurgated Nava in most circumstances. It's gotten me in a lot of trouble in the past. It probably will continue to, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I have to tell you, Yolanda, you are fearless. You are.
Wait, I'm going to be, okay, one other thing. I'm going to be 73 in November.
You're going to be 73.
I don't look 73.
No, honey, you don't. You look fabulous.
I'm going to be 58.
52. Why go in the house? Don't go late 50s. Go early. Sexual peak, 52. Have at it. So, but Yolanda, that's really interesting because, a lot of people, I've read your book, so a lot of people don't know your story. Perhaps sharing your story, because this is something, if everybody wasn't worried about what keeps them from success, your story, Yolanda, is really unique. Because you had a very full career, and you were, an anchor woman and did all this stuff, and then suddenly this happened to you. But what happened to you is actually magnified who you are, and it's amazing to see you continue to be fearless and to do the things that you do. So, none of that kept you from doing anything. So to me, that's a really important message, that when you have something in your life, because who here doesn't have something? Everybody has something. Some are more severe, we'll call it, than others, or more challenging than others. But you know what? We all have something to get over. And if we can, and Yolanda's she's a role model of look, you get right past that, you just get going, and you just do it. It doesn't hold you back. It doesn't hold you back. So if...
It's because of spirit. It's because of the teachings.
Yep.
The understanding that I am a child of God.
Exactly.
That enables me to do anything I need to do. I'm provided for, I'm protected, I'm guided, I have provision. I live abundantly. It has nothing to do with money.
No.
And I live very, profitably. I have beautiful relationships. I have a fabulous man in my life right now. And I always do, What the women here said, why did you test what's off that
Rejected. Yeah. I'll take your seconds, is what they're saying.
How do you do this? But you have to offer what you want to receive. And when I went to see John of God in March, one of my intentions was to be able to love a man unconditionally and be loved unconditionally in church. That's been real hard.
Sure.
And I have it. And I have more. I have it all, really. And I feel like I have it all. And I want to, start giving back again to young people so that they can start out at an earlier time than I did.
Sure.
Understand what we need to do to live a sane, productive, fulfilling, and fulfilling.
And if anybody can do it, Yolanda, you can pull that off. All right, everybody close your eyes for just a minute. People live prosperously at all levels of income because prosperity is not about money. It's about freedom and love. Prosperity is about the freedom to express life in your particular way. Prosperity is also about happiness. And happiness is about generosity of spirit. Generosity of spirit happens, for example, when you give more than you can afford to a project you believe in and you feel good in doing so. The gift does not leave you feeling diminished. It leaves you feeling expanded and happy. Or generosity of spirit is when you show up for others when it is inconvenient for you to do so. Or when you serve an organization or in a project knowing that it is unlikely that acknowledgement will happen. That is what living a prosperous life is like. Having a generosity of spirit, living with happiness and freedom. So the question is, never think of yourself as being someone who has nothing to give. Never think of yourself as someone who has nothing to give. Everyone has something to give. not just your clothes and things. I'm talking about some gift that you have that no one else has. So I want you to contemplate that. Actually, I want you to get your PowerPoint out, and on the third I think it's the third one, under page 42. Just write down, bullet point, just write down a couple things that you know you have to give other people. It can be just your wisdom of life, it could be a philosophy of this, or it could be a talent for doing that. It could be anything. Just let's take a minute and just write a couple things down. Everybody look around you to see if there's a purse that doesn't belong to you. There it is, right there. You got it. Okay, anybody want to share your gift? What is it that you're ready to give? I said ready, because even though you wrote it down, you may not be ready to give it, but I'm asking you, what are you ready to give?
Inspiration, wisdom.
Thank you, Yolanda. Inspiration and wisdom. Anybody else want to share their gifts? Compassion and acceptance. Was that? An ear to listen with. Yep. Anybody else?
Understanding and love.
Understanding and love. Ronald. Ability to make other people feel comfortable. I like this. Being present. Yep. Anybody else? Sorry? Bruce? Always willing to help someone in need? Yes. Marlene. Sorry? Hope? Oh, look at me. Oh, did you see that? Never mind. Hope. Ability to make people laugh. Look, these are things you guys can do right now. Being a good listener. All right? These are things, hopefully you're using these and not holding them back from people. Hopefully you are working on these things right now. These are your gifts to give. Talk about the feeling of quality of giving that leaves you feeling diminished in comparison to giving that leaves you feeling joyful. Have you ever felt diminished when you're giving? I can tell you when I do. There's a time when I feel really diminished, that I don't feel good about the giving that I'm doing. And that's when I get trapped on the phone with like a telemarketer, or not a telemarketer, but someone collecting for an organization. And something in me just goes, okay, here, just take $5. Just take $5. I just want to get off the phone, right? That's not good giving. Because then when I'm done, I'm like, why did I do that? Now I'm on their mailing list, and now they call me every hour, and it's like, oh my God, what did I do? What was I thinking? So I have to be careful where I give my treasure, because I want to make sure that it feels right? It's not that I'm going to get something in return, it's just that it feels right. You know, a friend of ours is going through a cancer experience. He's been a friend for many, 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 many years. And he was about to lose a lot of stuff at one time. And you know, Trey and I don't make a whole lot of money. We have a kid in college, but I said, you know what? We just need to write him a check and not think twice about it. And that felt so good, to write a check and not think twice about it, and to go down and just hand it to him And it wasn't for a thank you, it wasn't for a hug, it was just, you know what, here, let me help you, let us help you. And, he's like, I'll pay you back. I'm like, don't even think about it. It's a gift. Just consider it a gift and let's be done with it. But he said, take the gift and go. So that kind of giving felt good. When I give to my center, I feel good because I get fed here. I feed you, but I also get fed here. So where do you have where it doesn't feel good? Where do you give that when it doesn't feel good? Eric?
If I get into a dynamic, not just a single act, but if I find myself in a dynamic where I'm giving in a manner that disrespects my own needs or my own self-care, it doesn't feel good. And I don't mean that it isn't important sometimes to put other people's needs first, because it is. But I'm talking about a sort of an ongoing dynamic where...
When you're in a relationship where you feel out of
employer,
balance.
partner, whatever, family, something. Yeah,
Exactly, whatever it is, a relationship.
Giving in a manner that disrespects your own needs.
Yeah, where you step back and forget who you are and you do it anyway. Just to make the other person happy or to please someone else, but you realize that you're giving up more than just what you're giving them. You're giving up a part of yourself as you're giving that thing. Does that make sense? That's called spiritual discernment. The definition of that is called spiritual discernment, being able to discern spiritually what is mine to do and what is mine not to do, and how to actually convey that in a way that you still stand in your own authentic self without trying to diminish the other person who's trying to ask you to do something. But it's called spiritual discernment. Anybody else where you feel bad about doing something? Maggie.
Because I don't like to have problems with people, I was using gifting to guilt them into being nice.
Yeah. Manipulation. Yeah. Giving to manipulate doesn't feel good. Giving to get status doesn't feel real good, right? So conversely, what makes you feel joyful about giving? Where do you give where you feel joyful about doing what you're doing? What does that feel like? What kind of feeling do you get, and what are you doing when that happens? When it's done with love?
I also think that when you do something for someone and they appreciate it, and, because if it's not appreciated, it kind of takes away.
That's a problem.
It is.
You know why, Robin? You either do it to do it without acknowledgement, or you don't do it. I know it's really harsh to hear that. But you either do it to do it because it's the right thing to do, but you can't do it for appreciation or knowledge. You do it because from the heart you're doing it. It always feels better when someone appreciates it and says thank you. I mean, do you have any kids?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so we all know what that walking ATM feeling is like, right? Yes. It's like.
But I think it's human nature.
It's human nature, but never. This is what I've learned from a spiritual perspective, okay? I used to feel that way. Like, if it wasn't appreciated, I'm like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And, that's not going to happen twice. And what I realize is that's just me. You either give because it feels right, but don't give because of a response. We have to give where it feels good to give, regardless of a response. It's always nice if it's appreciated. That's a cherry, but you don't give for the cherry. You give for the giving because you can and you want to. But it's true. I've battled that for years, where I just dismissed. I dismissed a lot of people because of that. And what I realized is I'm not doing it to get the thank you. I'm doing it because it's just the right thing to do. Here, just.
Well, and I don't think you do it for the thank you. I think your heart's in the right place. But it's also true that if someone doesn't appreciate what you're doing and taking it for granted,
Right. Now,
you don't want to do it anymore.
that falls under the category of feeling diminished. If you feel like you're being taken for granted, then that falls under the category. But where you feel joyful, right? So you have to be careful. If you feel diminished, then you do have to look at that. But make sure you're not feeling diminished just because someone doesn't have the level of gratitude you expect them to have. I find that my expectation of others, I'm really easily let down So I don't have an expectation when I give. I just give because it feels right. And then I make sure it's in integrity with what I believe in to be good or good expanding. Does that make sense? Okay. Discuss the meaning of the phrase having generosity of spirit. What does it mean to you when we say having a generosity of spirit? What does that mean? Velma.
I think of it as unself-conscious giving.
Unself-conscious giving. In other words, you're just always in that place. You're just always in that place. You don't think about it. You just do it. It just becomes part of your fabric. It becomes part of your fabric to having a generosity of spirit isn't just about money. It's about the totality of your being. When one feels rich in and of themselves, right? Complete in and of themselves. Not complete, because no one's really ever complete. We're all under construction. So when one feels good about themselves and what they're doing, and we stay in that space as much as possible, and we're giving and receiving, and we're doing all of the proper work, spiritual work, that to me is having generosity of spirit in everything we do. In your relationships, generosity of spirit. What does that mean? In your health, generosity of spirit. What does that mean? Being generous with yourself, self-care. Somebody said self-care earlier, about sacrificing self-care. Eric, I think you said it. Don't sacrifice self-care. It's a very important component. It's very easy to get caught into the work thing where you work, and then when you're not working, you're panicking about not working or panicking about something else. It's easy to get caught in that trap. Self-care is really important. So generosity of health, generosity of relationships, generosity period of giving and receiving of your treasure, your financial means, giving and receiving, being part of that. Generosity of your spiritual journey. You're here on a Monday morning, which is, that speaks volumes, just that your commitment is here already. So you're already moving toward that direction. Now I want it to be less metered and more you. Does that make sense? Yes. The more real you. All right. Close your eyes for a moment. Listen to what I'm about to read you. Generous people live the richest lives. People who give love are the most loved, and people who give joy are the most joyful. Life is a circle. That which we give to others comes pouring back into our own lives. That's why it's important to make sure that the spirit in you, which you give, is authentic and genuine. What you give is not important. It's where you give it from. Your consciousness at the time of giving, not the purchase price, determines the true value of your gift. When we give in love and joy, the good we share with others multiplies and returns back to us. But if we give with indifference or guilt, then what we're given diminishes our value and produces lack. Giving is the most important thing you do. What you give your time, energy, and money to signifies where you place value in your life. It is evident of your convictions and morals. Be sure you are giving consciously. Be sure you are making choices that honor who you are and what you truly believe. So open up your eyes. Let's talk about this for a minute. How is the spirit in which a person gives the key to their experience of giving? How is the spirit of how you're doing it? How does that determine? Liam.
Because to me, it's not the amount or the thing given, it's the energy it's more of an exchange of energy than anything else.
Right. Perfect. You know why? Because guess what money is? Money is nothing more than energy. Money is, get ready for this, God in action. It's action. It's an energy. So when we're giving out money and receiving money, it's actually energy. We look at it and do something linear in our heads with it, but it's actually the exchange of energy. So you have to make sure. Dr. Tom, after living 40 years in the desert, Dr. Tom, the guy over there in that picture that founded this place, he told us that after living 40 years in the desert, just like the Jews did, 40 years in and out, he moved and he said, you know what he did? He wrote the water company a thank you note. and the electric company a thank you note, thanking them for 40 years of water and electricity at his house. Yeah, on every check I write, thank you, God. Every single check I write for no matter what, just thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. I don't care who it's to, thank you, God. Because that's the spirit of energy, the exchange of energy. It's being grateful that I can pay and being grateful that the energy is there. What else does it mean? A spirit in which a person gives. How else can that have a bearing on what you're doing? What if it's a negative spirit? What if it's the spirit and the energy? What if it's guilt, right? What if it's guilt? Do you feel good about giving from guilt? So you have to be careful about that. When we give from guilt and a false sense of obligation, what happens? Resentment and anger. And then how do you cure that? How do you strip giving bare of all mischief? In other words, control. So how do you strip away all those external things, right? In other words, how do you strip it of all mischief? In other words, how do you strip the control out of it? We talked about it earlier with Robin. Give it without expecting anything in return. And you give joyously while you're doing it. That's a challenge. That's a real challenge sometimes, because when you're experiencing lack, to give anything, sometimes you're like, oh. But guess what? When that's happening, look at my fists are clenched. I am not in a receiving place at all. When generosity of spirit means, you know what? I'm trusting the universe. Here it goes. I'm priming the spiritual pump. Here it goes. I'm willing to put love out there. I'm willing to make myself available to have loving relationships. Here it goes. Instead of, right? I'm willing to put myself out there to take care of myself. I'm willing to make the appointments, whatever's necessary. I'm willing to do what I need to do in my relationships to keep them alive and healthy and exciting. The spirit in which it is done. Finally, giving is the most important thing that you do. Discuss that. Discuss the idea that giving is the most important thing that we do. Anybody have thoughts on that? Go ahead.
I get back what I give.
Okay. Without an expectation, though. When you give without an expectation of return. It's just that I'm doing it. Right, exactly, because it's the most important thing we do. Go ahead, Eric.
I am a caregiver for my mother, and I feel like it's a sacred honor. I mean, it gives my life meaning. I feel like I fulfill some of my purpose for being by being there for her.
It feels good.
It gives my life meaning.
Yeah. Now, I have to tell you, there's, and I'll just share my own experience. There were times, I'll share this. It's a pretty intimate share, but I'll do it anyway. There was a time when my dad was in a dementia care unit, and my mother was gone, and it was, I think, August and about 127 degrees. And he was in a dementia care unit, and even though it's air conditioned, you know what it's like when we live here, and the windows are hot, and your body's hot, and you just feel, you're uncomfortable. And I remember feeling very resentful that I was the only one taking care of my dad. I would stop in and take care of him every day. And, I had 2 jobs, and I was single parenting a lot of it because Trey was flying. And I was just very busy, and then I had to add that to my schedule, and I was kind of resentful. I was actually very resentful. And I remember looking at my dad, if you met my dad when he was here, he was just the sweetest, gentlest man, the sweetest guy ever. And, just being in his presence made you happy. So that started to shift a little bit. But in the back of my mind, I'm still being resentful. So I noticed that my dad's toenails and nails needed to be clipped. And I'm like, okay, I'll do this. And that's not exactly a pleasant job, And so I'm down there sweating. The sweat is dripping off my brow. I'm burning up. I'm clipping my dad's toenails in a dementia care unit. I'm going, oh my God, what is going on with my life? And I'm like, oh. And so I was so resentful. And sometimes with people who have Alzheimer's, a window opens in their mind, and they become very clear. They become very lucid and they become very present in the moment. And I remember specifically with my dad, him looking at me and he said, son, I'm really sorry you have to do all this, but I thank you for taking care of your mom and our finances, and I know that's really hard on you. And, I just really appreciate and love you. And I looked up at him and I'm like, oh my God, that's Dad. He came in that moment. Otherwise I was just a worker, right? He was there. He's fully present in that moment. And I was like, and then I realized, okay, that's what it's about, Eric. It's like, put that resentment away, put that caregiver thing away a little bit, and just understand that this was indeed an honor to be there. I mean, the next minute, it faded away. I mean, then he started talking about, stuff that makes no sense. But in that moment of resentment and anger, a window opened. And what I've been resenting became very clear what my real purpose was. And so sometimes in life you get a gift when a window opens with someone like that. Sometimes the window may never open, but that doesn't mean you can't find the purpose for what you're really doing in there. The part about giving from that place in love, because it feels, Eileen?
You spoke, I think, like a few Sundays ago about being of service. And I woke up the next day, Monday morning, and said, okay, find a way to be of service today. I thought, well, I could go give blood. I'm right there by Eisenhower Hospital or something. And I went to check on my mom's house, and her elderly neighbor had just almost burnt her house down.
Oh.
And was in such distress, and it caused this huge mess in her house that she never could have cleaned up. Physically, just couldn't have done it. She was afraid to call anybody because she felt so like they're going to make me take this next step because I can't take care of myself. So I helped her clean up her house. She wouldn't have called to ask me.
No.
But I was there, and I helped her through this thing. And I didn't expect anything in return. But I realize now today, especially kind of as the result of caregiving, I do expect my family to show appreciation or to say thank you. So I can do it in other areas of my life, but it's harder with my family.
Tell me about it. Yeah. My daughter. But she found a job today. She is a certified flight instructor now. She is teaching people to fly. Ah! I barely want to drive with her. Go ahead.
Well, they talk.
Last one.
Yeah, they talk about in this generosity.
Here, put it closer to your mouth, honey.
Okay, they talk about giving in this section, and I certainly know what it means to give, but I never thought about it the way they put it. I mean, it's like a discipline that I never had when I was growing up. And it took me a long time to develop it. But it says in here, you have to give until it doesn't hurt. It's going to hurt when you give.
Right.
But you have to give anyway when you know it's right.
Well, when Trey and I learned, and we're not going to talk about this till later, but when Trey and I learned how to tithe, which is 10%, not 8%, not 5%, but 10%, when Trey and I learned how to tithe, there were times when we were writing that check and when I went, right? And he's like, do it. Just do it. And everything always worked out. The church is the same way. We struggle financially, but it always works out. Something always pops up. It takes a while, but things pop up. I mean, we've had a 15-year history here. It's like, yeah, you know what? Sometimes funds are low, but things show up. But we can't stop tithing because that's what primes the pump for all things to happen. So even as a tithing church, we have to go, whenever we're down at the church, I always say, I need to go look at our tithing record. Are we up to are we full tithing at full 10%? Because if we're not, I can almost tell you that proportionately our income is down the same way. And so it is a science. It is a science. And if you have never practiced it, I encourage you to try. We should get a Prosperity Plus program again and give it 10 weeks and watch how that works. Because it works. If you don't want to have money problems, what you said was right. There has to be consistency, right? There has to be a consistency about it. All right? Giving is the most important thing we do. It's just one of the most important things we do because, like you said, and also, too, you don't give to receive. But when it's time for you to receive, my sister just broke her foot. So she's used to giving all the time, but now she can't get around. And she's like, everybody has to do everything for me, and it feels horrible. I'm like, well, this is a good thing because at least people are around to do something for you, right? And now is the time that you have to actually receive, which for some people, we talked about that first class, some people are not good about receiving. They don't like it. Now, she was one of those that was a low number on the receiving. Now she has to start to deal with that. Does that make sense? Okay, one last one. What might be the right attitude? Brainstorm what the right attitude might be in giving. What I'm going to do is we are going to I want you to get in groups of 4 or 5 quickly, ever so quickly. Just grab a group of 4 or 5. 4 or 5. They need a couple people in the back with Yolanda. You'll have a good time back there. Who has a 5? Let me peel a 5. Can I peel a 5th off to go back to Yolanda? That way they've got a 3. Who's got a 5? Let me put one more person over there. So put groups of 4. So you head back there to with Yolanda. 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4. Okay, good. All right, here's the question. First of all, when I'm done talking, introduce yourself, say hello to these people, and find out a little bit about them. Secondly, look at that, all 3 shirts. I'm going to take a picture and send that to Trey. Brainstorm what the right attitude might be in giving. So I want you to just have a brainstorm about what is the right attitude in giving. Someone be the scribe and write down what you guys come up with. Write down what is the right attitude in giving. Hey, Mark, put your hands down for a minute. I want Trey to see that. Ready? Smile, guys. 1, 2, 3. Yes. That'll make his day. Okay, take another minute to wrap up. Your break starts now. Wrap up what you're doing. Your break starts now, and let's resume at 10:30. So just finish up your group, write that down, and come back at 10:30. seat. All right. What's that? Yeah, whoever was the scribe. Just go ahead and take your regular seat. And let's get started. I love it. You can always tell when the twins are talking. We were in Bali, and I could always tell. Okay, ladies, class is starting. Come on. Leave your coffee. We got to get going.
I drank 2 cups of water and 2/3 of a cup of coffee like that.
I always tell people, pour a quarter cup. You'll get through it. It's a quarter cup break. All right. Welcome back. Thank you, whoever brought the snacks. Thank you. I think we've covered for next week, but there are service opportunities for snacks the rest of the course. So please feel free to sign up for any of the other ones, all right? All right, who are the people that took the notes? If you took notes for your group, we're going to talk about what it means. What did you come up with? Oh, wait, sorry, my bad. Go for it.
We got kind of a late start, but we said what the right attitude is that you recognize a need, be open to that, and recognize the need, and then you give without expectation.
Okay.
And that it creates positive energy and it can build relationships. And then we went off track a little bit by talking about how important it was to let other people give.
Right.
That sometimes we think, oh, I have more money or I'm in a better place, and you won't even accept small gifts or kind of shame people or say, oh, no, that's not necessary. But you got to let everybody give and feel that way inside.
Good.
And one more thing. Oh, well, we talked about the thank you thing, but it is nice to get a little bit of acknowledgement. And if someone doesn't ever thank you or give acknowledgement, does it stop the wheel?
Well,
the circle?
I guess what I would say is gratitude is an essential element in your life.
But don't expect
But don't expect gratitude to be an essential element in someone else's life. All right? Anybody else want to give it? Who else was described that anything different? Bring up your differences. Anything different that they came up with?
Well, we believe that when you give and you give freely with no expectation, God pays you back tenfold.
Okay. All right. Another scribe behind you, Don.
Okay, so we just went with love isn't love till you give it away. And so it's in giving, in gratitude that it hits you that you have something to give. Sometimes you don't know what it is until the minute you're handing it, oh yeah, I have that to give, and then you're in gratitude that you have that to give.
Great. Velma, you were the scribe for your group?
Many things. One thing was giving with the intangibles. It doesn't have to be food or clothes. It can be time, a smile, something very simple. Giving authentically without barbs, not giving out of a sense of guilt or a sense of duty. Being aware of how we give to others and not imposing our giving upon them. So that there has to, I love that word, there has to be a balance. It's not all about us when we give. It's also about the other person. And giving beyond our comfort zone. If we have difficulty doing it, do it anyway.
Right, faith.
And do it with a smile, not a grimace.
Right. Do it in faith. Anybody else describe? Where did Mark go? Was he okay? He left? All right.
I saw him.
Want to make sure he's okay.
We had a lot of overlap with the others, of course, but one of the things we focused on is having faith that all of your own needs are going to be met, and giving, and that's connected to being able to give freely, and giving joyfully and without expectations, unconditionally, from a place of unconditional love, and providing service to someone else, giving in a spirit of service with attention to the other person's joy and increasing another person's joy.
You guys have a really, combined, you guys have a powerful story here. Go ahead, Melanie.
So we talked about that the happiness it gives us and the pleasure it gives us to give, but we want to give when the Spirit moves us to give, not out of obligation, not out of guilt or manipulation.
Okay.
And also, like for instance with the hurricanes and disasters, you like to know who you're giving to.
Right.
In those circumstances, when it's a financial, primarily financial that you're giving, you want to know that you're truly making a difference. And also, for people that like to do personal things like create art for a person, to know that what that means.
Right. Okay. Maggie, your group?
Do unto others as you would have it done unto you, to give unto others as you would have it given unto you, and to give in an untethered way, and to remember the Indian secrets of the giveaway. When you no longer need something, give it away so your arms aren't full and you will receive what you want. And then being fearless in this.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Those were great definitions. Will you scribe on your group? Here. Oh, you just want to add something?
I just wanted to say that someone in our group was told actually by her boss that she was too altruistic. Can one be too altruistic? She was truly giving from generosity of spirit, and it was turned around on her, and she was stabbed in the back. And how do you deal with that? She wants to keep on still giving.
Right.
She wants to have that lovely feeling because she has generosity of spirit, is genuinely there.
Okay, so here's, go ahead.
Yeah,
One more.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
But
that's my question.
I'll address it.
Yeah, how to, like, pure giving is such a beautiful thing, but how to differentiate the personal and the business, because when we give freely and all to others and they took everything from you and turn back, that's how to integrate altruistic nature in the business.
Well, okay, so let's talk about, can you give too much? Can you give too much? Yeah. So if you give to the point where other things are suffering in your life or other things are hurting, then you're not balanced in your giving. Some people are really good about volunteering, and they volunteer every single night from the time they get out of work to the time they go to bed, and they volunteer all weekend. And they have no social life, they're exhausted, they don't have a romantic relationship, they're married to volunteerism. So in other words, it's replacing the balance of other things in their life. All right? So in terms of can you give too much? If you're balanced, no. But if your life is balanced, then you can give as much as you want to give. I don't think you'd ever be accused of giving too much if you lived a balanced life. There would be giving and receiving, sleeping and drinking and eating. I mean, everything's all balanced, right? Right? Exercise and sleep and all that. It's a balancing thing. So I don't think you can give too much unless other things are suffering as a result. If other things are out of whack, your relationships, your health, whatever it is, then you need to look at that because you're giving too much at the expense of other things. Does that make sense? Yeah. It also undercuts you spiritually.
How do you work out when you give and you're taken advantage of, and then you build up a resentment, or you want justice done for the wrong that was done against you for giving out?
Just remember, anytime you give, the key word here that you heard most groups say, had to do with detachment. When you give, you have to give detached. You can't attach yourself to the outcome or whether or not they're going to pay you back. In other words, if I gave to someone, whenever, just a life lesson, I never give more than I can walk away from. Because if I have an expectation of anybody, even family members are the worst. There's more accountability among my other people than one of my family members. So if you ever give with the expectancy that it is going to come back to you, I would just say you have to watch how you give. You have to give detached, joyfully and detached. If there's any hesitancy on your part because you're afraid it's not going to come back, then I would be hesitant to give it. Because my intuition is telling me, unless I'm able to walk away from all of this, it's not the right thing for me to do. So you have to listen to your intuition and say, does that make sense, everybody? You have to listen to your intuition. If your intuition says, this doesn't feel right, I feel like this is going to come back to haunt me someday, and you know when you know that. Does anyone not know that? Does anyone not know that feeling? Okay, so if you know that intuitively, and you go into it, then you've volunteered. You're no longer a victim. So that's when you cross over. So any anger or resentment you have needs to go through a course of forgiveness for yourself, not for the other person. Forgiveness for yourself for having made a decision, right, that you were attached to the outcome. And it didn't turn out the way you wanted, so you can't be angry. No one forces anyone to give. All giving is voluntary, of our time, talent, and treasure. All of it is voluntary. If any resentment exists around the act of giving, I can guarantee you it's not going to work out well for you. Something is going to come up that doesn't feel right about it. If there's any hesitancy, you have to be fully in and feel good about it. Does that make sense? Does that help you, Bruce? No. If not, there's the judicial system, which is another whole approach. But keep in mind, okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about judicial systems, because people are always like, they ask me, they'll come and say, will you pray for a positive outcome at my case? I'm like, no. I'll pray for justice and for the right person to listen to it that has open ears and an open mind. But I don't know if you're right or wrong. That's you. But I pray that the right person with the intelligence and the intellect is listening objectively and will issue whatever is in the best interest of the parties. That's what I pray for. So when you come to me with saying, please pray that I win this, I'm like, well, I'll pray the highest outcome, highest and best outcome. Does that make sense? Yeah. This may be a therapy session. We may have to go later, all right?
No. I just have to work on not having it as a resentment and turn it over to God and just have justice. I feel that I want the justice returned to me by God and not by...
Well, if you turn it over, just turn it over. There comes a point where it owns you. Anytime you have a debt like that, you've given somebody something and there's a debt that has to be repaid and you feel a sense of justice, as soon as we have those emotions, we're saying, kind of, God punish them for what they did, right? Karmically, you don't have to worry about that. The universe is going to do unto others as you've done unto others, right? The golden rule in reverse, right? So it's going to be done unto them as they've done. And it always comes back. You don't need to worry about dishing out spiritual justice. What you have to think about is, how long do I want to be held captive to this debt? There comes a point where it becomes overwhelming. And I had a similar situation with a lot of money in my life. And eventually I had to get to the point where I said, turn the switch off. I've given this example before. If I put my hand into the meat cutter, it's going to happen once, right? You hope. But if I put my hand in it again, whose fault is it? Yeah. So, lesson learned first time. I also know that when I go into that consciousness of you owe me and I gave it to you and this and we get that fight. It's like if you give in the future, give whatever you're comfortable in giving, knowing that it doesn't need to come back. It's a gift. It's a gift. And you will be detached, and someday you'll get a check back and you'll go, but if you don't, no big deal. You did it from the heart, you did it right, and you felt good about it. All right? Ready to move on? Yes, absolutely. Next thing, broadcast energy. Close your eyes for a minute. I want to read this one. Very early in my studies of spirituality, I learned about the law of radiation, which describes people as broadcasters of energy. This energy is made up of their thoughts, feelings, emotions, history, likes, dislikes, and so on, and acts like a beacon or radio broadcasting antenna. Learning about the law of radiation launched me on a lifelong examination of what I think, feel, and talk about in key areas of my life, such as prosperity. This helped me to notice how my experience often have a direct relationship to the energy I am broadcasting. So I take time at least once or twice a year to ask myself, what do I think, feel, and say about prosperity? I write my responses down because writing slows down my thoughts and allows me to carefully review them and possibly even decide to begin broadcasting a different message. So open up your eyes again. The question is, what does the phrase, your life is your message, mean to you? Your life is your message. Anybody?
I think the way you live your life is the message that you send to everyone else. Not so much what you say, but what you do.
Okay. Maggie? Here, use this one. This works better. Closer up.
I recently had a mirror of what my life was to other people because I'm always effulgent, hugging people, and I will not stop doing that. Someone told me, I don't want to be thought of as nicely or have any affection from anyone, and that wasn't exactly about me other than my respecting their boundaries.
Right. Okay. My life is my message. What is that? Ronald? Let's keep diving into it a little bit.
I think I kind of like the way Ralph Waldo Emerson said it. What you do speaks so loudly, I don't hear a word you say.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Yeah. What you do speak so loudly, I can't hear what you say. Your life is your message, and you're constantly broadcasting your message. When we are, and understand, energy is energy, and like magnets, it attracts like energy. Okay? So, if you're projecting lack or limitation or scarcity and fear, if that's your life message, then your vibration is that way. And you're going to attract into your experience people who also believe that way. And then you have consensus. So then you have a group of people getting together on low-level frequency who are all fearful or scared. And where do they go from there? That circle just grows because you attract more people into your circle. And you attract more circumstances like that. Your life is your message. Your life is your energy. You have to think about that all the time. You know? If you walk into a room and you're like this, what energy, what are you projecting? If you're all hunched over and hurting or just, feeling bad about yourself, what are you projecting? Versus what are you projecting when you stand up straight and you're like, I'm here. There's that confidence. I don't think the universe created us to be hunched over and bent down. I think we were meant to be confident and stand in our own truth and really be able to articulate our happiness and be part of someone else's happiness. Does that make sense? So your life is your message. It's also your vibration. It's your frequency. And it's also your magnet. So life is a message, is a vibration, a frequency, and a magnet. Does that make sense? What is the role of being authentic when being nice? Have you ever had someone be nice that wasn't authentic and you knew it? You know? And you're like, they're like, have a nice day. And you're like, that's the last thing they mean to be saying to me right now, right? It doesn't feel right, does it? How important is being authentic? It's really important, right? Doesn't mean you have to project that you're not feeling the best when you're wishing someone the best, right? But it has to be from the heart. Everything has to be from that place of going through the filter of authenticity, right? If it comes out of my mouth, it has to be authentic. Now, sometimes that can be dangerous, right? You know, sometimes being authentic and being truthful about a situation can appear to harm other people because this is not just about delivering a happy message. If you're upset with someone and you're standing in your authenticity as someone who feels betrayed or upset, then you have to find a way to gently convey your idea. And so sometimes we lose our authenticity because we try to twist things around a little bit to make it more pleasant for the other person, even though the other person is the one who has hurt our feelings. And we allowed ourselves to get hurt, but it still happened. I suggest this, and I always say this. I always make sure I'm talking to the ears of the other person. What is the other person going to hear, and how are they going to hear it? Because the way I say things sometimes will just turn my daughter off before my second word comes out. Right? So I have to make sure that when I'm talking to her or I'm talking to my husband or someone or even the office staff or whoever, that I have to make sure that I'm saying it in a way that the ears can hear it without getting upset, too upset, right? I mean, something I'm going to say may hurt their feelings as well, but it's not intentional if I'm just standing in my truth. So we have to be careful so that we're saying the words that people can understand in the way I need to hear it. When someone approaches me and they talk to me the way I need to hear things, I am more apt to get 10 times more done and accommodate them than someone who approaches me and just starts firing things off at me in a way I can't hear it. Does that make sense? So make sure that you're doing that when it means authentic about being nice. Make sure it's an authentic thing. Reflect on the question, what is the nature of the energy I am broadcasting? If someone were to, all right, let's talk about that. Let's rate your energy, 1 to 10. 1 being low energy, 10 being, you are high vibrate. You are like Buddha. You got a Buddha energy going on, all right? 10 is Buddha, and 1 is I'm not radiating good energy at all right? So let's find out where you are. 1 to 3. If you're radiating 1 to 3 on your energy, raise your hand. Be honest, it's okay. No one's going to judge you. 1 to 3? No, 1 to 3? Really? That's good. Well, you're higher than that. Honey, you're much higher than that. You really are. Give yourself credit. We'll give you a 4. All right. 1 to 3. 4 to 7. 4 to 7? 4 to 7. All right. Anything over 7? All right, good. All right, so that's good. You guys know, so if the nature of your broadcasting is a lower number, how about this week we work on it broadcasting 1 number higher than we are today? You pick the number. Everybody write your number down so you remember it. Write your number down, and now make a commitment that you're going to go to the next level. And that your energy and your conversations and your actions are going to coincide with bumping yourself up just 1 number this week. All right? All right, next thing. Close your eyes again. Many people try to get something for nothing. They are desperate for love, but unwilling to love others or forgive. Instead, they cling to resentment and judgment. They want to live well and vibrantly, but they are fascinated by disease. They want to prosper, but instead of giving their thoughts to abundance, they live in fear and doubt. It is spiritually impossible to get something from life that you are unwilling to give. Poverty consciousness is focused on getting. It wants to get something without giving. Prosperity consciousness is focused on giving. If your strategy is to give more now so that you can get more later, you will fail because your motivation is to take something from life without fully paying for it. If your plan is to test God by giving very little, don't waste your time. You can only receive what you're first willing to give. Give only out of love and faith. Give without any thought as how or where you will be resupplied. Give faithfully, knowing that the source of your good is endless and eternal. Give without regard for how or from whom your good will be returned. Give until it feels good. Open your eyes. Let's discuss the thoughts of give what you are willing to receive. What does that mean? Give what you are willing to receive. Anybody? Everybody's quiet. Yes.
When you were reading that passage, I thought of my dog. She's 14 years old. She's a Boston Terrier. And I don't think in all those years, we've had her since she was 8 weeks old, she's ever approached an encounter with another creature, whether it's a person or a dog, with anything but joy. She's always so happy to meet someone new. She's always so happy to have that encounter. And I think that it conditions her experiences to having that positive all the time, because she doesn't have an expectation of bad. She doesn't have an expectation of that someone will back away from her. So she approaches everyone the same with the same joy. And in all the time I've had her, at least in my presence, I've never heard her growl. I've never seen her snap. She's always happy, and I think she gets that in return all the time. And she's a 19-pound dog, but I think it's a lesson that I can take to heart.
Absolutely. And so let me expand on that a little bit. I bet, is it a he or she? I bet she doesn't look at a big dog and go, uh-oh, big dog. Or a small dog and go, ooh, small dog. Right? I bet she doesn't look at the color of the dog, right? Or the type of dog, or what kind of heritage that dog has, lineage. I bet that dog just says it's pure love and acts that way. So maybe we need to take the lesson from that. And, I know that sometimes I get put off. I've always said, I remember years and years ago walking down, I think probably the mall, and there was this young man who had a mohawk that was like 4 feet in the air. And it was like every color in the rainbow. And I just saw people look at him and immediately judging him on everything because he had a 4-foot mohawk. And it would be easy to step into judgment on that. But it's like, wait a minute, you don't even know anything about this kid except that he's really good with this mohawk. I mean, he was working a mohawk, right? He was practically a gay pride flag in and of himself. It was up there. So if we were to have that attitude a little bit with other people, become more puppy-like then, right? And not see differences in size and colors in the exterior. Not seeing the exterior is really important. Just to see them as the God being that they are, and to have that connection to the God being within. Does that make sense? So give what you are willing to receive. Wouldn't it be nice if people looked at you and didn't start passing judgment about everything you were doing? About how you appeared and what you drove, where you lived, where your work was, what your bank account looked like, what your relationships looked like, what everything, all that stuff. Would it be nice if you weren't always sitting and being judged by other people? So maybe give what you are willing to receive also means, hey, I need to give those things out. I need to give forgiveness out. I need to give love out. If you're experiencing lack, if you are experiencing financial lack, the only way you're going to experience financial wealth is to give whatever you can give proportionately. And do it from a place of faith, not fear. That's the only way to prime the pump. If you are struggling financially, you need to learn. You need to go buy Edwene Gaines' book in there and live by it. So that's my suggestion to you. All right, we got to keep going here. This is where the break was supposed to be. That's why we're really behind. All right. What did you learn from your family about an origin of generosity? Take a moment to look what you wrote on page 13. Whatever you wrote on page 13. Do we have a 13? No, I don't think we have a 13. Never mind, we can't do that. So we're just going to answer the question. Oh, okay. Thank you. That's right. Wait a minute, I'm working 2 books. So what did you learn from your parents or your family about generosity? Velma. Velma has a good one. You can tell she's already laughing. Go ahead.
I learned hospitality from my parents.
Okay.
They had, it was open house. One of my most cherished memories is how my dad would cook all day, and we would have everybody over to the house, and the party would go on all night, and they'd throw us on the fur coats the ladies took off, and we'd go to sleep, and it would go on until 4 in the morning. But everybody was welcome.
Wow.
And they were servants. They waited on everybody and anticipated their needs and gave freely.
And have a good time.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anything about your heritage that you would like to share? Your what happened to you growing up? Yolanda. Microphone's right
I
there.
really had a Mexican background, and so there is this culture of celebration and just love and sharing and giving. And I just remember all of our family events, were so beautiful. And Whatnot had lived in a small apartment down by Silver Lake, and I don't know how many gazillions of dozens of families used to come through there for tamales on like Christmas Eve or some other festive occasion. It was just a lot of generosity, a lot of love, and a lot of giving. And my mom was a seamstress, and my parents were divorced when I was 8, and she was the head of household, and she didn't make a lot of money. But we never suffered for anything. We never lacked for anything. There was always more than enough, and we had a beautiful home, and, people came through, and my mother would provide, a bedroom for a woman who got divorced, a friend or somebody who was going through a difficult time. I mean, there's always this giving, a lot of love.
Do you think it's the same way now?
In my family or
In general?
In general?
Yes.
I have no way of knowing in general, but I experience this with my friends. I experience a lot of generosity, a lot of love, and
Okay. What about the group? Do you guys think that that is the norm now, or do you think that's kind of being challenged? Challenged? Yeah. What do you think is causing the fear around that? Greed? Not having enough? Lack? Lack of trust? Then the lack of trust means lack of faith. So when you have lack of trust, it's lack of faith. Just remember that. It's the same, well, they're synonymous. So, yeah, it is. It's a challenging time right now. I mean, we live in a really different era. But to Yolanda's point, I live across from a park, and I see exactly what she's talking about. So there are parts of our community that are still in celebration like that. And I guess the question would be, when it talks about the origin of generosity, when is the last time you originated that kind of activity that brought joy into your household and into your family and your friends? So when is the last time you did it, and why aren't you doing it? Oh, Marlene, you were going to share with me. Hold on. I'm sorry.
What I wanted to share was my mother came from Poland, married at 14, and she had a second-grade education, had 2 kids, was widowed. But the greatest gift that she always had was teaching us was no matter what you had, there was always enough to share. We always allowed other people to come in. They didn't need to call ahead of time. There was always food on the table. We sent care packages to Poland our whole life. And after my mother died, I continued to do that. But I also learned that anytime I have a big dinner at my house, I always put an extra plate at the table for the unknown guests that may stop in.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah, we're going to have an opportunity to host those kids from Kenya. And from what I've gathered in talking with the leaders, these kids are coming from, some pretty rough backgrounds, where lack is the norm, where safe drinking water is not readily available, where food is scarce and things like that. So These kids are coming and visiting us in a culture that, I mean, I can't imagine if we took them to Hometown Buffet what it would feel like to them. You know what I mean? To see that much food at one place and people just, going at it, right? So when it comes to generosity of spirit, let's look at who our role models were about being generous. And they may be family members, they may be people outside of your family that you look at and you go, gosh, I really want to be like that, so I aspire to be able to do those things. It's funny. What class was that? Oh, no, that Rick, Financial Peace University. What's his name? Rick, that talk show host. Gosh, what's his name? No, I can't remember. We just taught it here. Was it Rick? Yeah. Is it Rick? What's his name? Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey. That's right. Anyways, part of Dave's Ramsey, now, I love his prosperity plan. I don't necessarily like his politics or his dogma, but I like his plan. So I took the class just to be part of the plan when we offered it here at the center. And something interesting he said, as he got older, and I agree with this, as I get older, I want less things and I want to be able to give more. I've done a shift of trying from collecting to now wanting to distribute. So the more wealth that we get in, the more I'm able to do what we want to do in terms of giving to where we think it's important to give. Being able to write a check to a friend of ours that is sick. Being able to give where we want to see growth happen, So maybe, just maybe, generosity of spirit is getting to the point where you're able to do what you want, how you want, and to pay cash for it, and to also be able to give the way you'd like to give. Like, let's just say if I could pay off all your debts and you had more than enough money in the bank. All your debts, more than enough money in the bank, right? And I mean, we call it financial security, whatever your number is, if that's a number, whatever the feeling is. What if I said, there you are, and now I'm going to give you $2 million more on top of that? And you don't need to save it. You have to spend it. You have to spend it. You have to spend it. What would you spend it on? Who would be receiving those gifts? Who would be the recipient of some of that? And you have to ask yourself the question, how can I work to that place now? I may not be able to give you $200,000 or $100,000 or $1 million. I can't do that. But what could I do? What could I give to other people? It may not be money. It may be my time. It may be having a party like Velma was sharing and Yolanda was sharing, having something to give where nothing was expected in return, but just to do it for doing its sake. I mean, even the snacks you guys bring in, to me, that's service. That's being of service. And some people, the time was spent on some of that stuff. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. How about you? What can you do to make that happen, right? All right, next thing. Where in your life is it easy to give and where is it difficult? I want you to grab a new partner. Go ahead, grab a new partner. And page 14 would be your response. All right, answer that question. Anybody need a partner? It's fine. Go. Yolanda needs a partner back there. Can we do a trio? There you go. All right, good. All right, answer the question. And it's on page 14. It should have been part of your homework. Are you guys doing your homework? Please tell me you're doing your homework. Where in your life is it easy to give? Where is it difficult? Let's just take 5 minutes there. Hey, time out 1 second. Time out 1 second. Also, I want you to discuss page 15. Describe your current giving practice. Describe the benefits you get from this practice. Is there anything you would do differently and why? So hopefully you answered that on your book. So combined 14 and 15, and we're going to resume here in like 10 minutes. So we got 10 minutes to share those. All right? Go for it. Okay, let's take another 2 minutes. Hopefully you've been able to get through page 15 as well. The questions are on the board, on the screen. Okay, let's return to our seats. Even if you're not done, we'll just do a little group exercise around this. You know, this week we're talking about giving. Next week is about receiving. So let's do this. I'm going to ask you this question, just the third one. Is there anything you would like to do differently? If so, what? And why? Anything about giving? When it comes to giving, what do you want to do differently right now?
Well, I'd like to start out by giving some of my talents to the church.
Okay.
I haven't done that at all. But when you were talking about the other day, you were talking about organizing in this church things where we could go out and give to other people. I'd like to get involved in that.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Thank you. Talking with Eric, and I think one of the things I'd like to do differently is that I'm aware that I miss opportunities to give. I can get so focused that I'm not onto some chances to give. So that's important to me. Be on the lookout more.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Maggie.
I live in an over 55 community, and there are protocols, and I would like to give everyone permission, or like turn on their engine, to live, to be loving, to communicate, to be honest, to ask for help, to give help. So give permission to be fully alive, full bore, ouch, or hallelujah.
Okay, good. Yolanda, you were going to say?
Oh, I want to give on a larger scale, and one of the things I've committed to is when my book is published next year, I'm going to bypass myself with a royalty stream to gift a couple of organizations and to help my daughter go through law school.
Oh, and there should also be the Joseph Hooper Foundation, right? You can make sure you give generously to the Joseph Hooper Foundation. And what were you going to say? Your daughter what? Or...
No, but also, when I was asking about what we want to do, I've always had the idea for a foundation and stuff like that, and I haven't acted on it because I haven't had the resource. but I have to generate to do that because I want to be at that level of philanthropy.
Sure. Giving more. Giving, giving, giving. Yes, anyone else? Come on, we all have ideas. Actually, hopefully you all have ideas to implement. So actually it should say, if so, what, why, and when. We should add the when to that. When do you choose to do that? Because if you know that giving is the priming the pump to receiving, so if that's part of the process that allows you to also receive in return, so when are you going to start taking that action and creating for yourself that balance? So it requires you to start taking action in whatever way you can. And if it stretches you a little bit, all the better. All the better, all right? Your homework for next week is this. In fact, if you turn to page 19 in your book, turn to page 19. You'll see everything there. If you go through pages 19, you go to page 20 and 21, you'll see in 22, there are 3 written exercises in there, and also 1 on 23. So 1 on each one of those pages. Please make sure you do those. Obviously, we're taking from your book and your journal, creates every class. So it's really incumbent upon you to make sure that you complete this journal and not wait till Sunday night, but to do a spiritual practice with it every day, because every day a concept is given to you that you should spend. I want you to spend that day contemplating what you just read. So in other words, maybe read it a couple times during the day, but contemplate it along with doing what's on pages 19 through 23, 24, whatever that is, to the end of the chapter, okay? So review that material in your workbook, and again, if you look in your, for those of you, it starts on page 34, and it will continue. If you just flip the pages, it'll just continue to take you right through it. It's all right there in order. All the pages are there in order, so just continue to flip the page and look on the other side. How are we doing, everybody? Good class? Yes. Yes? All right, good. Any questions so far? Yes. They can't transport things because they're moving around the country and they have very limited space. So what we've done, though, for people that financially want to help sponsor, because basically what they need is money to keep their tour going. And so we've had a couple people, one guy donated $1,000, another one donated $250. All the sales, all the proceeds for the tickets, 100% are going to them. The church isn't taking a thing. So we're just producing it for them, and I hope we can fill this place up. It's not even, we haven't sold 100 tickets yet, so I thought I thought you could buy them in the office. Yeah, something, yeah, whatever, invite a guest. Yeah, they're Disney's putting them up that night. So they're going, Vegas, the venue in Vegas is putting them up, and then the venue in Anaheim is putting them up. And we're just trying to supply them with enough money for their food and gas and keep the kids going. Okay? So yeah, we'd love to have you at that. How many of you were here Wednesday night? All right. How many people didn't know we had a Wednesday night service this week? Okay, if you didn't know, that means we don't have your email address. So there's a form out there to put your email address on, and we'd love to be able to communicate. I ended up having a healing service for Vegas on Wednesday night. And it was, very last minute, but it was a pretty good service for those who came. Yeah. So that's one of the only ways we can. How many people have Facebook? How many people have liked us on Facebook? Make sure if you haven't liked us, like us on Facebook, because that's also where we put the announcements. All right? So we just want to make sure we're able to communicate, especially when things like that pop up. We should be able to, when a tragedy pops up, you should be able to count on the center to react to that and to help start the healing process. So, all right, good class, everybody. Let's go ahead and pray our way out, yeah? I enjoyed that. That was a good class. All right, let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath in And exhale out. The ultimate giving and receiving, inhaling and exhaling. All right, so let us know this. I know that indeed it was an amazing day here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Palm Desert. I know that something within you was touched, was opened up. Maybe a little light was shining on something that had been in the darkness before. And I know that for each and every one of us here, we are able to take that knowledge and transform that into an opportunity to be of greater service to ourselves, our families, our communities, and the world itself. And so I know that there were seeds of giving, of the outpouring of our time, our talent, and our treasure. I know that seed was planted today, and now the doors are beginning to open for opportunities for us to walk into those and experience what it feels like to be giving our time, our talent, and our treasure. I know that as I walk through this day, I know that my awareness of things I can do is now peaked, and I'm looking for those. And so I affirm that for you as well, that opportunities to be of service and to do even the smallest things for other individuals, they're popping up, and now they're also in our purview. They're actually in our vision. We see them now, and we step into them. Even awkward as it may be, we step into them and offer whatever we can to make the world a better place. The world will become a better place when we become better. It's up for each one of us to set our bar a little bit higher today, a little more patient, a little more loving, a little more giving, a little more accepting, just a little more today. So let's raise the bar of our consciousness and our actions and make sure that they're synonymous and that they're in sync. So for this opportunity and for this beautiful building and those who made our snacks and who made this class possible, we give great thanks for all of that and say thank you, beloved presence, for this opportunity to be safe in this building and to be secure and nice and comfortable. Thank you, beloved presence, for all that we have. Thank you, beloved presence, for all that we don't have. I know something wonderful happened. Each one of you were a part of that today. And together we seal this in truth by saying, and so it is. Amen. Good class, everybody. Thank you so much.